As the school year winds down, grade 12 students are about to take their next step. In this week's Beyond the Classroom, we see a group from Holy Rosary making their post-secondary leap, spurred on by their athletic abilities.
Proud parents and staff administrators joined together to celebrate 15 different students at Holy Rosary who have been recently signed to various post-secondary teams. Some of the locations the students will be traveling to include Toronto, Halifax, and even as far as Germany.
Obviously, there's a huge sense of pride here for just our Raider athletics in general, and it's really awesome to see that our student athletes are being recognized past high school. We know that they have the talent, and a lot of them also have their academic talents, so for them to be able to keep both of those together in the future is really awesome.
This next step for the students is filled with uncertainty, something they are aware of and ready to take on.
Well, there's always the fear of the unknown, right? It's just like big changes from high school to college, and there's a lot of things that I'm not really sure about, but it'll all work itself out.
I'm just excited to meet lots of new people. I don't know some of my teammates. I know a lot of them because I actually play for Husky Volleyball Club in Saskatoon, so I know lots of the girls already. I know the coach lots already, but I'm excited to learn some new things in school, make some new friends, and just live away from home.
And that's all for this week's edition of Beyond the Classroom.
At Lakeland College, our students go beyond the classroom for immersive, hands-on learning experiences. It's about experiencing the real world.
And Thomas Wildman joins me now with the weather. Thomas, last night was a little bit scary. There were crazy clouds, lots of wind, and different places had some pretty bad stuff.
Yeah, I think we would call it a thunderstorm that happened yesterday. Thankfully, that didn't carry on into the morning like I think it was scheduled to. But then we get the rain pretty much all day today. It was a slight mist that then turned into worse, and I believe that it will continue on into Thursday. However, hopefully Friday we will see some sunnier skies, though that wind unfortunately isn't going to be going away anytime soon. So June's not off to the happiest start, but still lots of the rain is definitely appreciated across the region and into the further parts of, especially down south in Saskatchewan and in Alberta as well. They definitely really like the moisture, and hopefully they're getting a lot of it because we certainly are enjoying it right now as seeding is completed and people are really wanting that water to get into the crops and help them grow right now in this growing stage, though a little bit of sun would be preferable as well. Taking a look at the almanac for today, a high of 14, a low of 9 degrees. The normal usually is a much higher 21 degrees, though with that normal it can get down to as low as 7 degrees today. And we got that 9.9 millimeters of rain so far this month. I'm sure that will be going up tomorrow with the calculations from today's drops of rain that we saw. Looking at the Lloydminster Airport right now, we're at 11 degrees with the wind chill, of course, lots of clouds, and of course that rain that we've been seeing throughout the whole day. It's very humid out there, so not the best day to have on your Wednesday here in Lloydminster. North Battleford, very similar, 12 degrees with the wind chill. They're still sitting at 12 degrees right now, and so just a not great day across the entire region, and wind chill, and still in Cold Lake, 14 degrees, heavy clouds there as well, and I'm sure they're getting plenty of rain as well. Taking a look at the current temperatures across the region, Lloydminster at that 11 degree mark, Cold Lake a little bit warmer, right now sitting at that 15 degree mark. We got Marwayne and St. Paul also at 11 degrees today, Vermilion and Wainwright at 12 degrees, Provost at 15, as is Edmonton, and then Vegreville and Bonnyville and Lac La Biche all at 13 degrees for today, the current temperatures. Taking a look on the Saskatchewan side, it's nice and warm in Alec Cross, 17 degrees for them today. Elsewhere, we're seeing similar temperatures to us here in the Alberta region. Pierceland at 13 degrees, Green Lake at 15 degrees, Meadow Lake at 14, St. Walburg at 12, with Maidstone similar to us at 11 today, Macklin at 15, and North Battleford at 12 as well. Taking a look at tonight's forecast in North Battleford, they're going to be breezy this evening and it's going to be cloudy with a couple of showers as well, a low of 9 degrees. That's definitely going to be an 84% chance of those showers coming down tonight. Cold Lake's going to be similar, cloudy with rain and drizzle, and it's going to be mainly early with those rains. They will finish up by this evening, 86% chance of those precipitation, so very likely that you'll be seeing rain throughout the evening in Cold Lake as well. And Lloydminster will be rain and drizzle throughout this evening, breezy as well, so just not the best time to be spending much time outside here in Lloydminster, 88% chance of that precipitation happening. We'll take a look now quickly at the next 3 days. As mentioned, tomorrow 84% showers around. It's going to be windy. It'll be a little bit warmer than today, but still not the most pleasant day for Thursday. Friday, we're going to be having a couple of afternoon showers, but we're seeing a little bit of a glimpse of sun there. And then Saturday, it's going to warm up again and be mostly sunny at 20 degrees. Nice and warm on Friday as well, though, at 21 degrees. But that will do it for our first look at the weather forecast. We will have some more news headlines coming up after the break.
I am speaking with Tasha Hilderman today, and she has written a book about being Métis. And it's an interesting story that you have to tell, and I know that it resonated with me for sure. I think I grew up in a very similar situation to you that you describe in the book. But first of all, what inspired you, I guess, to write this book?
Well, when I was growing up, we knew we were Métis, but we didn't really have a big connection to it. My grandfather was very quiet, my mom's dad, so we're Métis on my mom's side. And my grandmother was Ukrainian, so she was the talker, and kind of everything was kind of coming from that angle. Um, and then as I got older, I wanted to connect more to being Métis, but I didn't find a lot of resources. And there weren't a lot of children's books about being Métis, and I've got 3 children. And so I really wanted there to be something for people who were Métis like me to be able to find.
Yeah, now what does the book cover? How deeply do you go into things here with the kids?
The story kind of goes along with a bunch of different Métis children and how they relate to being Métis. So some of them, they bead with their grandparents, or some of them go fishing, or some of them pick Saskatoons. And so there's just a bunch of children with all different skin tones relating how they connect to their Métis culture. And then there's a child who says, I don't know the history of our people, and I don't do any of those things. And another child says, it's never too late. You can learn now. And even if you aren't Métis, you can still enjoy our food and spend time with us and share in our stories and do our crafts and learn about the Métis people.
What has the reception been to the book? I know you had a reading at the library recently, but otherwise, what are people saying about it?
The reception has been amazing. There's been lots of little kids, like I'm doing some readings in the schools, and I did a reading at Midwest Family Connections this morning. So children who aren't familiar with it just like the story, and they like the pictures, and they like the feel. The cover of the book is actually embossed with the beadwork, so it has a texture to it, so all the kids really like kind of feeling that. And then there's a lot of people that are my age or adults who are saying, this is me in that story. And I grew up not connected to some things, and I really want to be connected to things now. And this is a great resource also for me to give my kids, because they didn't have anything like this. And there's been a lot of emotions around it, surprisingly, like people getting really welled up towards the end of the story and being like, it's almost like permission to say, yeah, it's okay for you to connect to things now. And it's okay to not know or not have been brought up in certain aspects. Like you can go learn how to fish now. I never grew up fishing. My dad wasn't a fisherman. And my grandparents, were in the prairie. They were farmers. So that wasn't an aspect of my lifestyle. But now my relatives do it, and my brothers learned how to do it and get into everything. So it's never too late, and it's a great community to be a part of, because everybody is so welcoming and so willing to teach and share.
All right, Tasha, so what comes next for you? Obviously, you've done this excellent book now. What is next for you?
Well, I'm going to be going up to Métis Crossing up at Smoky Lake next weekend, I guess. June's flying by, for Métis Fest up there. So I'll be up there with the book, and then hoping to go back to Batoche in Saskatchewan next month. But the book is actually selling really well, so they're getting low on copies. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna have enough copies left to do that this year. And then I have some other books in the works. They're not Métis based. The next one is coming out August 5th of 2025, and it's called Lights at Night, and it really celebrates kind of how we use light throughout the year on the prairies, and the ways that we connect with it, whether that's through northern lights or fireworks or campfires or Christmas lights, or the lights above the football field. So really wanted to represent this region, so there's lots of fields and like combine lights and things like that, so I'm excited for that one too.
Yeah, we used to go up on a big hill near our farm and watch all the combines down in the flat every year.
Yes. And when I was doing the illustrations, my editor is from Toronto, and she's like, "Well, should we say tractor lights instead, because more kids would understand?" I'm like, "No, combine lights are special. They're like these gigantic dinosaur alien things in the fields. Like it's a specific kind of light, and we have to represent the lights from this region and these kids." So
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Tasha, thank you so much for shedding some light on being Métis like you and me, and also for writing this book. I think it's great that you've taken that upon yourself and are spreading the good word to kids that may not know how to handle that.
thank you so much.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery, downtown Lloydminster.
It's that time of week again when Stephanie Dobson joins us. Stephanie is a lawyer, mediator, and online educator with Hankin Divorce Law and Mediation, offices in Edmonton and Lloydminster. It's time for another episode of Healthy, Thriving Family After Divorce. Stephanie, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Stacy.
We're continuing our theme for the month of June, which is talking about spousal support. Not the easiest subject, but very much an important one. So last week we started kind of getting into the basics, and today we're going to dig a little deeper. So let's talk about when spousal support is actually in place, how does that change over time?
So once spousal support is documented by the spouses, whether that's by court order or by agreement, but just in a document in general, it continues until some new condition arises. So today we're going to cover the 4 ways that spousal support can change. So the first way is when a specific hurdle is crossed. So you and your spouse may have agreed or been court ordered to pay support or receive support for a certain number of months or years, or until a certain event occurs, like remarriage or job training. So if there's that stated endpoint, then often there's a couple of options for how that endpoint will look. It can either be reviewed, meaning it's looked at again based on the circumstances at that time, or it may end forever. So it doesn't necessarily mean that when it's up for renewal or for looking at it again, that it definitely ends. So another way that support could change is if you get a new court order, of course, that changes the term of support or terminates it altogether. A spousal support can also be changed by agreement. So this is where you and your former spouse would agree to end or to change support. And then lastly, death can also affect spousal support. So in the event of the death of the recipient of spousal support will end. But if the payor of support dies, then it gets a little bit more complicated as to whether the deceased's estate has to continue paying spousal support, or if there's other sources of money, like, for example, life insurance proceeds. But it does get a little bit more complicated in that once the death realm comes up.
So how does the person know if they are eligible for a change or even an end in spousal support?
So I want to distinguish here 2 types of changes to spousal support. So to be eligible to change or end spousal support, you need to fit into one of these following 2 types of situations. You either need to be eligible for a review of spousal support or for a variation of spousal support. So if spousal support is to be reviewed, the coin term reviewed, it generally means that something about the award of spousal support will be looked at afresh in the future. So it may be the entire question of spousal support, or it may be entitlement to spousal support, or how much for how long, or it can be the whole kit and caboodle that gets looked at again. But the point is, it's looked at afresh based on a future set of circumstances. So there's also the opportunity for what's called a variation of spousal support. So variation is the key word there. So that means that someone who's applying for the change of spousal support has to prove that there's been what's called a material change of circumstances for either spouse in order to justify their request. So of course, it's very complicated, but the point is that there's some hurdles to cross to be able to change support at a future date.
And what is a material change of circumstances?
So that's another legal term, just like the word entitlement in last week's episode. So really important to look into these words. That's a really great question, Stacy. So material change of circumstances is required to be eligible to vary spousal support. So the Supreme Court of Canada has set out the standard for the meaning of that term. So I'm going to read exactly what the Supreme Court of Canada has said. It means that the change is substantial, continuing, and if those circumstances were known at the time, it would have resulted in a different order. So for example, here's some examples. So change of income for one or both of the spouses, losing a job and being unable to continue payment, retirement, the recipient spouse income now exceeds the paying spouse's income where it didn't before, self-sufficiency, that's again a complicated one. Remarriage of the recipient spouse and child support has newly ended, and the recipient spouse wants to increase spousal support.
And now, how do you go about negotiating changes to spousal support?
Well, just like in any topic with respect to separation and divorce, all of the negotiation options are available to spouses who are wanting to seek to change spousal support. So if former spouses are agreeable to discussing the topic, which oftentimes they aren't, but if they are agreeable, they can use processes like our office offers, such as mediation, collaborative law, or even just plain and simple out-of-court settlement-focused lawyers getting together at a boardroom table, trying to negotiate spousal support changes, or by letters, correspondence back and forth. There's occasions, of course, where spouses are not able, or former spouses are not able to sit down together. And in those instances, of course, a court application may be necessary.
All right, Stephanie, great information as always, and we'll be back next week to continue this subject. There's just so much we can talk about with this, and it sometimes, unfortunately, as you said, is a contentious issue. So thank you for joining me this week, and we will chat with you again next week.
Thanks, Stacy.
It's been nearly 2 years since Canadian music icon Celine Dion revealed her decades-long battle with a rare disease. But for the first time, the singer is detailing her struggle with stiff person syndrome in an emotional tell-all interview.
It's like somebody's strangling you. It's like somebody's pushing your pharynx this way.
Oh.
So it's like you're talking like that, and you cannot go high or lower. It gets into a spasm.
Speaking to NBC, Dion revealed she tried to hide her symptoms for years, admitting she should have stopped performing sooner. She also revealed she began to rely on Valium to help her perform. Doses she feared could have been deadly. Despite this, Dion says she has a date in mind for when she plans to return to the stage.
Well, that's impressive that she plans on coming back to the stage for sure.
Very brave. That is all that we have for you tonight. Thanks for joining us and have a great evening.